Well, two key themes stuck out today in an earlier chat I had with a friend. Well, I've been promised after the Ramadan fast, cow leg and ofada rice. Now, I just can't wait. But what if our leaders give such a promise? Now, Nigeria's President Buhari can provide from his farm, maybe cow leg, and former President Obasanjo provides ofada rice, which is produced in commercial quantity from his home state, Ogun. Or we say chicken from his farm. Now, that's going to be a ball. I can imagine the smell coming out of the kitchen when these two decide to make us a meal. Perhaps we should ask them what's cooking. I smell something. Do you? Well, as political stew, I'm Sulaiman Aled. Welcome. On our menu today, it's Nigeria's democratic a la carte. Now, the meal can be ordered as separate items rather than part of a set meal. So we will choose each from a dish and from a separate list instead of eating a fixed combo. May I remind you, you get more choice if you eat a la carte, so you keep your taste buds ready as we serve you many for the price of one. You can watch us live online on the go at tvcnews.tv/live-streaming. We're also live on YouTube, TVC News Nigeria Live. You can get to search that and follow us. Well, you can also watch us live on Facebook. Quite a number of things we can actually do when you follow the social media handle there. We're live there on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, as well as on Twitter. And of course, that's the handle there, politicalstewng.com. Now we're doing our countdown. TikTok goes the time for the election in Ekiti State. Quite a number of activities happening in that state. And two key political parties, the ruling All Progressives Congress, did I say the ruling for Ekiti State? The ruling party is the PDP. And but for now, INEC has come up with this timetable leading up to that election. And for 13th of June, that's the big moment. A lot of people are waiting to see. It will be the last day of submission for the nomination. And thereafter, we'll be seeing the publication of the final list of nominated candidates, which comes up on the 14th also of June. Still on the governorship election in Ekiti State, the publication of notice of poll will happen on the 30th of June. That's the last day of the month of June before we move into the month of July, where we'll be seeing the submission of names of party agents, and thereafter we'll see a couple of other activities leading up to this big day. Don't forget that many news emanating from the state of Ekiti has it that the candidates are already set, and the last day for campaigns will be July the 12th. That's just 2 days before the big moment, and that's 14th of July 2018. The studios will be live here. It will be open, looking at activities leading up to that election, and thereafter we'll be speaking with key candidates of that election. We'll take a moment here in our political kitchen. When we come back, we'll be looking at what we have in our a la carte. You just don't want to miss this, do you? Well, now, if you're born in the 70s, just like some of us, you have quite a few catching up to do. What about the 80s or even 90s? You see, the closer the year, the more you would need to refresh your mind. It's not a guarantee anyway, so we can always read up history. But when questions start to eat up, the mind like a crunchy snack, then you need a good head to lead you in finding answers or quench your thirst. Is May 29th truly Nigeria's Democracy Day? At what point do we really say it's Nigeria's Democracy Day? Is the election of 1979 fit to be called a democratic process? As we say here in the kitchen, nothing ever stays the same. In the course of serving the national meal, Nigeria has witnessed many dressed in aprons making us a meal. One kitchen, many cooks, many ingredients and millions to be served. The stove is on. The pot is on the fire and it's cooking time. So the lid is open. We smell the aroma. Joining us now is one of Africa's finest octogenarian, legal mind and social commentator, Robert Clark, a senior advocate of Nigeria. Good to have you join us this evening.
It's my pleasure, and it's my pleasure sitting in this fine and beautiful place.
Thank you very much. I'm actually honored. When I did place that call and you assured me you were going to make it, I went to sleep. Thank you very much for finding time to come.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
A whole lot has been happening, and of course, I once watched a clip where the man who is being remembered hugely today, MK Abiola, did say in that interview, he said he tried to personify what process we were going through at that point in time. He used the word, he said, we don't understand the kind of animal we have at this moment, because from up here, it's a military we get, down here, we get to see a civilian. So take us through 1960, if we can really, race through that time till this moment. How has it been like at the start of independence? What system of government did we start this democratic process with?
We inherited from the British colonial government a parliamentary system of governance. A parliamentary system of governance is one based on the Westminster method of looking after the affairs of the common man. The House of Commons, the House of Lords, and of course, their system paid because they never had a written constitution. They were ruling as things do occur. If there's a lacuna in the law, they sit down and they make a new law to fit in the circumstances that has arisen. The doctrine of, force majeure or doctrine of necessity was a doctrine created under a parliamentary system of governance. It has nothing to do with a presidential system. So when Yar'Adua was sick, Jonathan was, and there were people talking about the doctrine of necessity, I laughed, because the constitution we had, which is the 1999, qualified the position of where a president is in a situation and cannot continue with his work. So there was no lacuna in our constitution. So there was no necessity to have brought in the doctrine of necessity.
So in other words, it looks to me that, we have a mix of parliamentary system and presidential system in one.
We never had it. Our parliamentarians were very greedy. They were very selfish, because under the 1999 Constitution, the person who can determine, or the organization who can determine whether the president is fit or unfit, is the cabinet, who are required by the provisions of the law to set up a medical panel to determine the state of his health. But ministers are politicians. If they want to determine that aspect, politics comes into play. The people who are in the kitchen cabinet, who are making a lot of money, ruling Nigeria when even Mr. President was virtually dead, will not allow a situation where the ministers will do such a thing. So the politics of the day did not permit the politicians of that date to take a decision according to the Constitution. So elder statesmen like Obasanjo and others came in and propounded the doctrine of what do you call it? Necessity, which is not part of our Constitution. So a parliamentary system is a system that allows for a doctrine of, because of the way and manner it is an unwritten constitution. So when situations arise, under the doctrine of necessity, they will quickly pass a law to meet up the circumstances of that time.
But again, I think in all of this, you know, one thing stuck out, and that's the parliamentarians, the National Assembly. As it is, one wonders why, when all of that was happening, no one saw this, I just don't want to call it a loophole, no one saw this point you're raising at this time. Were we carried away by, you know, the whole issue to the extent that we needed a solution?
You see, there are some of us in Nigeria today, when we speak out our minds, people listen to it, but people who are fascinated by it are the people like you and I who cannot change anything. So they do see our points, because I said a lot about this doctrine of necessity. But because the people who appeared to listen to me, who accepted it, are people who cannot change it. The people who can change it are the people who are going to benefit or not to benefit if it is changed. If ministers who are by law enjoined to undertake the first step in determining whether the president can rule or cannot rule, know that the first victims will be them losing their portfolios. They will not want to do anything. I think only Professor, that lady, I've forgotten her name now, who after decided to, you know, make a cry out.
Okay, that's Professor Dora Akunyili.
Dora Akunyili. She was the only one who at once they said, look, I can no longer keep quiet because there were too many vested interests. That's the problem in Nigeria. Too many vested interests.
You know, I won't talk about too many vested interests because I want us to hinge this on the system we have at the moment so that we can start talking about party politics. Perhaps if we say we had a semblance of, or someone reached out to the parliamentary system to evoke, you know, a solution in a presidential system, it then means we still don't have a name to call that system of government. Has it changed ever since?
I have always said it, and I will maintain it tonight, that the 1999 constitution we have is a rotten egg. It is not a constitution made by the people, nor was it made for the people. And therefore, it can never serve the purpose of helping the people. And we have seen it today after 18 years of running this constitution. It has not helped you and I. We are worse off than we were in 1999. All our manufacturing organizations are all worse off than they were in 1999. The only things we are seeing in Nigeria today is that individuals overnight are becoming so rich